This is Ivan Ivanov, and you are watching UFO Disclosure Bulgaria. We have the documents. We have the witnesses. True stories about UFOs, visitors from outer space, and other worlds.
I'm ready. Yes, we are live. Дами и господа, UFO Disclosure Bulgaria се намира в Розуел, както вчера казах, и ние сме в библиотеката на НЛО музея с мистер Clifford Stone и днес той ще каже какви нови неща има за НЛО и всичко каквото иска да каже ще го каже. Аз ще се опитвам да превеждам докато той говори и другото, което е, аз не съм професионален преводач. They're supposed to be satisfied with that they got. So I'm going to speak in Bulgarian and English also. Ами ето, ние сме тук с господин Клифърд Стоун в библиотеката на НЛО музея. Ако искате междувременно, може да задавате въпроси. И ако аз мога да ги видя, съответно ще питам Клифърд Стоун и ще видим какво ще стане. Да. What do we have here? Какво имаме тук?
These right here are documents
Това тук са документи,
dealing with our research
свързани с моята изследователска работа.
The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. In short, we never gave up or stopped investigating
Това е една
UFOs.
програма за отбрана.
I have a dog named George. You get the same dog and you name him Fred. Same dog by a different name.
Yeah.
Well, they continue to investigate UFOs, which Blue Book really nothing but a PR program. Behind the scenes, a serious investigation is going on. And
Сега ще говорим за сериозни изследвания, няма да говорим за някакви измишлетини.
And of course, this right here,
И разбира се, това
which
тук
they're not
този
going to tell you,
документ, те няма да ви кажат.
but in 1995, NASA
През
started a program.
1995 година НАСА започна
And
програма.
that program was called
Тази програма се наричаше
Advanced Propulsion Systems Research, which
създаване на нови горива.
and they asked for papers from scientists within their own field, but they told them we're not going to get to other stars, other solar systems.
НАСА поиска мнението на много специалисти във връзка с тази програма,
which are light years away, using just liquid and solid fuels. We have to come up with something more dynamic,
до
more
този
dramatic.
момент горивата, които използваха за космически полети, знаете, те бяха течни и това вече не е достатъчно за днешното време.
But the whole situation
Цялата работа е в това, че
was that scientists were no longer going to be capable of
учените няма да бъдат в състояние
coming up with an understanding of how we're going to get from here to there unless they did think out of the box. And NASA told them, think out of the box.
Учените няма да могат да дадат по-добро решение за отиването от една звезда до друга звезда или до друга звездна система с тези стари горива, конвенционалните горива.
would never ever even consider doing that until NASA gave its okay. Then, things they would never talk about in polite society.
Учените, разбира се, те работят за създаването на такива нови горива, но те никога не са ги споделили с публиката.
Would not talk about in front of other scientists unless it was a trusted group of scientists
Само
who had like
определена
minds.
група учени, на които имат доверие. Те участват в тази разработка.
These scientists started to write papers to present at the meetings they had every 6 months. And these papers started to talk about traversable wormholes.
Обаче някои от тези учени започнаха да пишат статии във вестниците за тези wormholes, или тунели във времето.
Vacuum space-time metrics on how to go ahead and travel great distances.
За преодоляване на време и пространство.
Doing it in a relative short period of time. So, openly, all that the American people knew was that
Това,
NASA
което
was
знаят
doing this.
американците в момента, е това, което НАСА им дава.
And it was nothing big. We're just continuing to try to develop our understanding of certain fields of science dealing with quantum mechanics that
Но
hopefully
разбира се, науката
someday
се развива и сега в днешно време говорим за квантова механика.
we would be able to exploit that knowledge into technologies
Ние започваме да развиваме нови технологии,
for practical use in
за да
craft
можем да ги използваме в нашето ежедневие.
that would get us not just from here, but to other our other star systems,
И това
say
ще ни
within
помогне не само за
12
подобряване на
years
нашия
or more
живот, но също така и
of
за
Earth.
отиване в други звездни системи.
And everybody thought, okay, it's just NASA doing it. And NASA wanted everyone to have that impression. Behind the scenes,
НАСА дава само елементи от тези проучвания, но не всичко.
the DIA was very actively involved.
Which is DIA?
Defense Intelligence Agency. This
Агенцията
document,
за отбрана на Америка.
this document is a DIA document.
И тези документи, които държа в ръката си, са точно документи от тази агенция за отбрана.
And this one is 43 pages in length.
И това са документи, които са от 43 страници.
And where NASA was just asking for papers expressing theories, this document, the other document I have here, hint at. They're not just talking theory here. They are making practical application of technologies that should not exist for another 1400 years at least.
НАСА има вече разработени технологии, които за съжаление май няма да бъдат показани в следващите 400 години, но ние всъщност имаме много нови технологии.
And how are we getting this information?
И как получаваме цялата тази
We're
информация?
getting this information because we're collecting data
Получаваме, защото
Within-
събираме информация.
in the military framework. We don't need civilians to come and tell us anything.
Предимно от военни, които работят и се занимават с тези програми.
And what we're getting
Това, което
is
получаваме,
observations of things that are being carried out by what we call affectionately advanced unconventional aircraft.
всъщност става въпрос за създаването, всъщност вече за създадени неконвенционални, непознати летящи обекти.
These objects are solid and real.
Тези са съвсем реални летателни апарати.
They exhibit technology far above that which we are presently capable
Те
of
използват,
doing.
тези нови апарати използват технологии, които са непознати за човечеството.
As far as the public is concerned.
Разбира се, за по-голямата част от обществото.
But what we're doing there, we are trying to go ahead and take our observations and our knowledge of these things as they apply to quantum mechanics and quickly and rapidly make them part of our own technology.
И сега всичко това, което вече знаем, събраната информация, която имаме, ние споделяме с останалите, за да имаме по-голямо знание.
And according to some of the people
Според
that are
някои
supposed to be in the
хора,
know, they believe that within a year,
те вярват, според някои съществува вярване, че може би до една година
the truth about UFOs being
истината за НЛО
of extraterrestrial
или извънземния
and
живот,
multidimensional realities
или многоизмерните деменции, многоизмерните...
multidimensional
I know
work.
what is that. I forgot the word in Bulgarian.
Say what?
Измерения. Различни, също и различни измерения.
And this will go ahead, and this knowledge will remain available to
Всъщност
the
това
public,
знание, което имаме в момента, не искаме да го дадем на хората.
not just by the U.S. government,
Не само сега,
but not just by the U.S. government,
не това, което ви дава правителството на САЩ,
but it will be a coordinated release of information to the fact we are not alone and we have
това ще
visitors
бъде
here.
една координирана информация, че ние не сме сами.
Now, with that being said, I take that with a grain of salt and caution because I'm not too sure it's going to be that soon.
Аз обаче не съм много сигурен, че това ще стане толкова скоро.
But on a personal level, if I could get it done,
Но това,
I
което аз мисля от само себе си,
I would get the information out there tomorrow.
аз бих дал тази информация още утре, нали, да направя това разкритие още утре.
But this right here, the document,
Тези
if you read it,
документи тук, които виждате, които държа в ръцете си,
it makes it clear that that technology that should not exist for another 1400 years, we are attempting to make practical application of now. And we've been doing this for at least 10, 15 years.
това може би няма, както вече казах, нали, ще остане в неизвестност следващите 10 на години, но това са технологии, които технологии от бъдещето.
So right now, we're at an impasse, waiting to see what's going to happen, when they're going to do it, and what type of information they're going to be releasing.
Сега ще видим каква информация правителството ще освободи.
In 1952-53 time frame,
През 1952,
1953 time frame,
1953,
we came very close to having disclosure.
ние почти щяхме да направим това разкритие.
There is documentation, which
Имаше достатъчно
Ivan has, the
документи, и аз
documentation,
имах такива документи,
that clearly paint a picture
и те описват една много реална и ясна картина
with the overflights of Washington, D.C. on
за тези
nights
летателни апарати, които бяха забелязани над Вашингтон, столицата.
on the nights of July 19th, 20th,
През юли 1920,
1920th,
1920
and July
и
26th, 27th,
26-27 юли
1952.
1952.
This created a drive and a need for concern from the American people, as well as from people at the very top, all the way to the President of the United States.
И това беше видяно от много хора, американски граждани, а също от президента на щатите.
They wanted answers.
Те търсиха отговори.
The heads of various intelligence organizations within the United States went ahead and directed their people who set in on what was called the Intelligence Advisory Committee, IAC.
Така че поради големия обществен интерес те свикаха събрание, на което президента на щатите и някои други агенции обсъждаха това, което се беше случило.
To express in these committee hearings
Да обяснят пред хората, какво да обяснят пред хората, какво да кажат.
a need and an urgent concern to develop methods and means to quickly and rapidly identify unidentified flying objects.
Те трябваше бързо да вземат някакво решение точно какво да кажат и да разкрият пред обществеността не само в Америка, но и по целия свят какво всъщност е НЛО.
They wasn't to go ahead and just give guesswork to it, but it was very, very clear that they needed rapid means to identify the objects, whether friend or foe, whether they meant us harm, and not take days for it to take place. We had to do this quickly and rapidly. Now, they went ahead and decided the best way to do this
Те мислиха твърде дълго какво да направят и как да го направят по най-добрия начин.
was to come to certain conclusions within IAC.
What is IAC?
That's the Intelligence Advisory Committee.
Okay. IAC е агенция за съветниците по сигурността.
And that they would ultimately do a draft of a National Security Council intelligence directive concerning UFOs.
Те събраха офицерите от разузнаването, от агенцията по разузнаването и Националния съвет.
Now this would have ultimately led to all intelligence organizations being involved in UFO research.
И в този процес беше ангажирана цялата агенция по разузнаването.
By the end, or by mid 1953 to the end of 1953, it would have been finally concluded, and I'm sure it would have been made public, whether they wanted to do it or whether it was leaked, that UFOs were a reality. They were someone else's spacecraft, and they did not originate on planet Earth.
Те стигнаха до заключението да кажат на широката общественост, че това е идентифициран летящ обект, който не е създаден на тази земя.
There were certain people at the time that did not want this to happen.
Хора по това време,
The Central Intelligence Agency
Централната агенция за разследване,
was the actual entity that was doing UFO research and keeping it all under wraps.
всъщност ЦРУ от това време правеше тези разследвания.
The director of Central Intelligence Agency
Тогавашният директор на
was
ЦРУ
the one that made the decisions on
е този, който
UFOs.
трябваше да вземе решението.
The office within the CIA that was actually doing the hands-on investigation of UFOs was the Office of Scientific Investigation.
Всъщност офиса, който беше ангажиран, агенция от
The
ЦРУ,
Office of Scientific
това
Investigation,
е офис за научно изследване на ЗНЛ.
OSI. So they were the ones that was doing it. Now, the situation is, it was dead reckoning within the CIA to ensure that this did not become a subject matter that was going to be investigated by all the intelligence communities.
И всъщност по-късно ЦРУ решиха да разгърнат тази работа по разследването и да дадат възможност на цялото разузнаване да се занимава с тази тема.
They wanted to go ahead and keep the secret under wraps.
Те искаха да запазят тази тайна за разследванията.
So here it was, they were working on it. They were trying to keep it very, very quiet.
Работиха за дълги години и се опитваха да пазят тайна за всичко това.
But by the end of 1952, it was becoming clear and apparent that that draft of the Intelligence Directive was going to be sent to the National Security Council, and they were going to get the National Security Council involved, which they had already been briefed, but they didn't really want to go as far as what the IAC wanted them to do. But if they got that, they would have no choice; they'd have to do it. So it was dead reckoning that something happened to stop that from happening. What they did, the Director of Central Intelligence says, look, before we bother the National Security Agency or the National Security Council with this, what we should do is have a scientific panel with scientists who are experts in their own field.
Тогавашният директор на ЦРУ по време на този голям съвет между разузнаването и обществения съвет, той е решил, преди да се направи каквото и да е публично изявление за феномена НЛО, да се свика екип от учени, които да разследват и съответно да кажат за какво става въпрос.
To go over the best cases we have and have them make a decision what we should do before we go ahead and present anything to the National Security Council.
Всъщност, идеята на тогавашния директор на ЦРУ е била да направи една селекция от случаи с НЛО наблюдения и те да решат какво да представят по време на този съвет.
So with that thought in mind, they set up what we today know as the Robinson Panel. The Robinson Panel met on January 14th to the 17th to try to determine what we should do about the UFO phenomena. Before they went into session to consider all this, the Director of Central Intelligence met with all the scientists that were involved and briefed them. To this day, what the Director of Central Intelligence briefed them and told them, that documentation, the minutes of that meeting, remains classified and has never been released.
Когато тогавашният директор на ЦРУ е събрал учените, той ги е запознал набързо с феномена, който са наблюдавали от години и им е казал, че това е топ-секретна информация и трябва да се остане в стаята.
And the reason I find this significant
И защо аз намирам това за толкова важно?
is that those scientists that met
Тези учени, които са били на срещата,
those 4 days
през тези
in
4 дни,
January of 1953
през януари 1953,
went into that meeting
по време на тази среща,
with the conclusions already foregone. They were not going to conclude UFOs were real, no matter what the evidence showed. They were not going to conclude that UFOs could possibly be of extraterrestrial origin, no matter what the evidence showed.
Всъщност по време на тези 4 дни, в които учените са били запознати с всички тези факти и доказателства, дори да са били убедени, че това е нещо, което не е от този свят, те не е трябвало да казват истината пред публиката.
Going into the meeting, they had already concluded that UFOs were foolishness and they hated to have to waste their time on holding that meeting.
И всъщност с това, което се излязва пред публиката е, че НЛО са халюцинации, и глупави истории, с които те нямат намерение да се занимават.
They had already concluded that people were hallucinating or just they didn't know what they were seeing.
Тези учени също са казали, че хората, които претендират, че са наблюдавали НЛО, те всъщност само си халюцинират.
And a lot of times people see things and they'd be so fascinated with it.
Хората виждат неща, които просто ги изумляват.
Their imaginations run wild.
Но това не са въображения.
Also, the ones reporting UFOs were not good observers.
Повечето от хора, които обикновено докладват за наблюдение на НЛО, те не са професионални наблюдатели.
Now the problem I have with them going in, filling that away is this. The 2/3 of the scientists that was on the Robinson panel worked on what was called Project Twinkle. That was the study of the green fireball phenomenon.
Той говори сега за проекта Twinkle, в който участвали много специални учени.
In the southwestern United States, places like Texas, Arizona,
И това
Colorado,
обхваща
New Mexico.
Аризона, Тексас, Ню Мексико, тези райони.
And we never concluded what these objects were when we'd set up cameras.
И никога до този момент официално никой не е казал какви са тези летателни апарати.
The phenomena seemed to die down and move to someplace else. Also, excuse me, we would plot where these green fireballs
Също така сме наблюдавали зелени топки.
should impact with the earth. We'd go out there to try to find debris. No debris were ever found.
So where from is coming these fireballs?
What's that?
How they show up these fireballs?
They looked like a fireball, only their color was green.
Yeah, green, but they coming from nowhere and going to nowhere, or
No, they'd cross and, flying in the sky. But we would
говори за
plot.
едни зелени кълба, които ги наричат огнени топки, и те се появяват на небето.
We would plot where a fireball should impact with the ground.
И тези топки буквално влизат в земята.
And we would go out, check that area, but
Отиваме
nothing was ever
да
found.
видим там, където тази топка е изчезнала в земята, но всъщност нямаше нищо.
Green fireballs still exist to this day.
И зелените топки все още съществуват като феномен в щатите.
And back in the day, and I concur with that even to this day, the green isn't something that's going to occur in nature that way. It's a compound, sulfur dioxide or something like that, that they actually copper oxide is what it is, dioxide. But the copper that burns green. So the situation is there's concern whether this was a man-made object or not.
Ние все още се чудим дали тези зелени топки са създадени от човека или те са някакъв друг непознат феномен.
But if it's a man-made object,
Ако
it's
човек ги е създал,
not made by anyone here on planet Earth.
то сега
If it was a man-made object, it was not made by anyone here on planet Earth.
ако тези топки са създадени от човешко същество, те със сигурност не са създадени тук на Земята.
Now, with that being said, there was another incident that happened in Europe, around
За такива
Denmark
инциденти
and
е
Spain and
докладвано
Sweden.
на различни места в Европа, в Швейцария, в Испания.
And that phenomenon was known as the ghost rockets.
И тези феномени също така са известни с името ракети и призраци.
And keep in mind that this happened in 46.
Запомнете, че това се е случило през 1947 година.
And what I want to point out first is that during the Second World War,
По време на Втората световна война,
is that the Germans developed rockets.
германците са разработвали
They
такива
had
технологии за
B1s,
ракети.
B2s, and was working on the V3. And this group of scientists in January of 53 were very quick to point out that people started to report seeing rockets toward the end of the Second World War.
И хората много често са започнали да докладват, че са наблюдавали летящи обекти с формата на ракети.
And it was very quickly concluded that these rockets were real. The reason for
И
this
това
is
се
that
случва
we
малко след
found
Втората световна война и това са съвсем реални летателни апарати.
the reason for this is because we found debris of these rockets. So it showed them, it assisted in proving their reality. Now, enter 1946 with the ghost rockets.
Сега това бяха ракетите през 1947 година, ракетите призраци.
There was a major endeavor underway by both the Allies and the Russians to get as many of the scientists and technical personnel who worked on these rockets during the Second World War to work on now classified programs within the
Руснаците също са работили с такива програми за разработването на подобни ракети.
within Russia and within the U.S.
И също тук в Америка.
And actually, Russia was ahead of the United States in
Всъщност
heavy booster
тогава Русия е
rockets.
била изпреварила Съединените щати с разработката на тези ракети.
So the people who were investigating the ghost rockets
Хората, които разследват тези ракети призраци,
in Sweden,
в
Denmark,
Швейцария, в Дания,
Spain.
Испания.
They went ahead and decided, okay, these are probably rockets being tested by the former Soviet states.
Те казаха, може би тези ракети са експерименти на Съветския съюз.
And what's happening is that these were rockets that went off course and crashed somewhere in one of those countries. So they went looking for debris.
Но всъщност те не са били произведени от руснаци или от немци.
But no debris were ever found.
Но няма и доказателства за това. Така че може и да са.
Was there evidence that they existed? Yes. People, militaryly trained people, military
Хора,
personnel,
които са военни, тренирани да наблюдават.
saw the objects.
Те са видяли тези обекти.
They had people who picked up the UFOs or picked up the ghost rockets on radar.
Те са засичали тези ракети на радари.
They tracked them to where actually they never saw where they would impact, but they'd do the plotting to where they'd impact and go look. But to be sure, radar would follow them and they'd go to the furthest extent of where radar could pick them up and just go off the radar screen. And it was something there. They were good, solid returns.
Но общо взето, така се каже, имаме много солидни доказателства за тези ракети призраци.
So to this day, the ghost rockets of 1946 in Europe have yet to be explained. They remain unknown.
Дори в днешно време ние все още нямаме обяснение за тези ракети и затова ги наричаме неизвестни.
Now getting back to the Robinson panel, when they met, they had Major Fournette, who was the Pentagon Press Information Officer for Project Blue Book.
Майор Форнет, който е работил за Пентагона, е бил част от проекта Синя книга.
Who told the panel these are the best cases that we have in Blue Book, and he presented them with.
Това са едни от най-добрите случаи, които имаме в Синя книга за ракетите призраци.
20, 30 different cases.
20 или 30 различни случая.
And he said, we have very carefully gone over all of these cases.
И ние много внимателно прегледахме всички тези случаи.
We have meticulously eliminated one by one
И ние се опитахме да елиминираме един по един
all possibilities that should explain them,
всички възможни варианти, които биха дали обяснение за това.
leaving us with only one conclusion.
Ние стигнахме само до едно заключение.
These cases represent
Те,
spacecraft coming from some other planet other than our own.
ние стигнахме до заключението, че тези летателни апарати, ракети призраци, всъщност идват от някъде другаде, не са от Земята.
And our thought on where they could come from is very limited then.
Че откъде биха могли да дойдат?
We could not
зададе въпрос.
fathom them coming from some other solar system.
Може би от някоя друга слънчева система.
Therefore, it was assumed, which you never do in the military, that they could possibly be craft from Mars or
Макар
Venus.
че военните никога не предполагат и се казваме, може би идват от Марс.
Then they had the National Photo Interpretation Laboratories, which wasn't really the Air Force's organization. It was actually the National Reconnaissance Organization, or the forerunner of it, that came out and told them, okay, we had the Montana film, which were two UFOs that were coming
Is this a
across the
video or
sky.
pictures?
This was a video. This was a movie.
Okay.
They didn't have video back in the day.
Okay.
It was 8mm movie film.
В Монтана военните са направили филм с 8 мм филм, който са заснели тези ракети.
And they meticulously spent several hundred man hours
Те са изследвали тези филми в специални военни лаборатории с часове.
going over that film. And they concluded that these were not aircraft, they
И
were
те са
not
стигнали до
birds,
заключението, че това не са земни летателни апарати,
they were true
те не са
unknowns.
птици,
approximately 30 feet in diameter.
с около 30 фита диаметър.
Now, the Utah films,
Филма от Юта
this was taken by
направен
Chief Warrant Officer Newhouse.
от офицера Нюхаус.
And there were 12 to 18 objects in the film he took.
И този филм, който той е заснел, има 12 подобни обекта.
The National Photo Interpretation Center concluded they were not birds,
Военната лаборатория стига до заключението, че това не са птици,
they were not aircraft,
не са летателни апарати.
they were true unknowns.
Те са просто неизвестни.
And they very meticulously, in both of those cases,
И двата тези случаи от Монтана и Юта,
went over how they made those conclusions.
и за двата случая са стигнали до едно и също заключение.
The scientists that were involved with the Robinson
Учените,
panel
които са били наети да изучават тези явления,
very childlessly, using the intelligence of a child, I have to state that, ruled all of these conclusions out, saying, oh, no, the Utah film, that was nothing more than a flock of geese. And, you know, they really didn't have time. I mean, in 4 days, they don't have the time to look at
they
it.
say that for the public.
Well, they said that because the director of Central Intelligence Agency, in my opinion, told them, you will do this. Didn't tell them what to say, but he said you will not conclude that there's anything to UFOs.
Агенцията от ЦРУ е казала на тези учени да кажат, че това не са никакви непознати летящи обекти, а че това са ятогъски.
They had to blow all this off. So here it was. They said, well,
Те са искали да компрометират този филм.
they were, you know, nothing more than birds, you know, a
И това
flock
е
of
нищо
geese.
друго, освен птици.
So while they were being carried as unknowns in the Blue Book files after the Robinson panel, they now were birds. They were geese. The Montana film being carried in Blue Book files as unknowns. Now, because the Robinson panel says, well, we believe that there are two F-94s coming in for a landing, which they'd already said, yeah, we saw the two F-94s coming in for a landing. We could make out what they were easily. Then these objects came over. Well, they went ahead and says, well, no, you're mistaken. This is what these were. They were the F-94s coming in for a landing. So in Blue Book files, it was being carried as unknowns. Now they changed it to aircraft, the F-94s.
По-късно проекта Синя книга също разглежда тези файлови и те всъщност променят заключението, като казват, че не, това не са птици, а това са военни самолети. What was
F-94s.
94s?
94s.
Force or 4?
9.
F9.
And Major Fournette, you know,
Майор Фурнет.
he was a scientist in his own right. Well,
Той също така е бил и учен.
what they do to him? They said, well, you know, we respect, you know, his integrity and all
ЦРУ са
that,
му казали, ние уважаваме твоя труд и твоите постижения,
but we just think he's entirely wrong.
но ние мислим, че твоето заключение, че това са летателни апарати от друг свят е напълно грешно.
So they just dismissed what he had to say.
И той човека не е имал друго какво да каже.
Now, the irony, which we just found out because we got documents that were much clearer and easier to read here in just the last year or so, make it clear that there was another person there at that meeting as an observer.
И сега, години по-късно, ние намерихме документи, че имало и друг наблюдател.
None other than Professor J. Allen Hynek.
И той, he saw it.
No. He was there as an observer on that meeting.
Окей. Част от този, човек, още един човек е имал по време на този митинг и това е бил
J. Allen
Hynek.
Now, what's unique about J. Allen Hynek, for the 22-year lifespan of Blue Book,
Той е прекарал 22 години в този проект Синя книга.
he was the scientific advisor to the U.S.
Той е
Air
бил
Force's
научен
Blue Book.
съветник за военните, за военно-въздушните сили военното разузнаване.
And he was also an astronomer in his own right.
Също така той е бил и астроном.
Why they didn't want him to be a party to the meeting is very easily to explain, or to the group of the panel of scientists. They didn't want him there for one reason.
И те не са искали той да участва в тази друга среща с другите учени.
In the beginning of doing the research into the UFO phenomena,
В началото, когато са започнали проучването за НЛО феномена,
Hynek came out and stated that he felt that UFOs were like sea serpents. They are seen during the summer, and at the end of the summer they'll just go away.
Хайнек след известно време на изследване казва, че това са някакви сезонни явления. Например, НЛО се появява само през лятото и изчезва.
Now, with that being said,
След като това е било казано,
by 1953,
през 1953,
Hynek definitely was showing a change of heart.
Хайнек напълно променя позицията си.
While still not ready to come out and say that the phenomenon was real,
Той все още не е в състояние да излезе пред публиката и да каже, че това е реален феномен.
and that we had to start to think of some other theories and possibilities of what UFOs could be other than just misidentification of
И
known
през главата
objects.
са минавали какви ли не теории, какво ли би могло да бъде този НЛО феномен.
And he did it he made that understanding by saying it in this way, that there were many cases of UFO reports that were made by highly reliable and credible people,
Но той е намерил файлове с свидетели, които са били с много добра, солидна подготовка.
of highly incredible events.
И те са документирали много интересни, действителни случаи.
In short, he was stating in his own way, we had to start taking UFOs seriously.
И след като е видял тези досиета, той се е променил напълно мнението, е казал, ние трябва много сериозно да обърнем внимание на този феномен.
We had to start listening to
Трябва да
what the
започнем
people
да
were
слушаме
reporting
какво хората казват, какво докладват от наблюденията си,
and try to get more details into these
да
things that they
съберем
were
повече
reporting
подробности, да ги записваме тези неща,
and try to take a closer look and try to form some type of conclusion as to what UFOs might be.
да проявим много по-голяма загриженост и да видим за какво става въпрос.
We move on to as a result of what happened there, by the way, that stopped them from sending anything to the National Security Council.
След този случай той е престанал да изпраща каквито и да е доклади до Съвета за национална сигурност.
So by that time, the national media had lost interest to a degree in UFOs. There wasn't that fiendish drive
За
as it
малко
was in
време
July.
медиите в държавата са загубили интерес към феномена НЛО.
The public was to the point where the giggle factor came into play because the panic that occurred as a result of the overflights of the July sightings over Washington, D.C. had died down. So there wasn't that big fear factor in Washington anymore.
И това мълчание, може би, те са запазили, може би, мълчание поради факта, че след този случай за масово наблюдение на НЛО над Белия дом, публиката е изпаднала в голяма паника.
However, certain steps were taken
Обаче са взети определени мерки,
to ensure that we had steps in place to ensure the protection of the high officials in Washington, D.C.
но всъщност тези мерки, които са взели, те са ЦРУ, за тях става въпрос, когато говорим за те или тях. Те са решили да запознаят част от конгресмените на Съединените щати.
Civil defense is something that you have a need to know Therefore, it's not classified.
И това, което трябва да разбере Министерството на отбраната, че има неща, които може би са класифицирани,
However, in 1953,
но през 1953
there was steps that were being taken.
бяха взети мерки,
These
стъпки,
steps were classified
някои бяха класифицирани,
to where we ran practice drills in civil defense to try to make sure that we could provide for the safety of the high-ranking officials in Washington, D.C. should there be any type of air attack on Washington, D.C.
Някои от тези случаи са били класифицирани с цел безопасността и националната сигурност и атаките над и евентуална атака над столицата Вашингтон.
And why did we do this?
И защо са го направили?
Very simply put,
Прост отговор.
for two separate nights, a week apart, in July of 1952, Washington, D.C. had mechanical objects
Две нощи те са наблюдавали от столицата Вашингтон.
had mechanical objects flying over the nation's capital
Истински летателни обекти, физически летателни обекти, които са летяли над столицата Вашингтон.
up to and including flying and remaining stationary over the White House. And our military forces were powerless to do anything about it.
И нашите отбранителни сили, там хората по сигурността са били много объркани и не са знали какво да правят.
The concern at that time was they have never shown any hostility. The UFOs have never shown any hostility.
Те са видяли, че НЛО-то всъщност не показва агресия.
But that could change, and if it did change,
Но евентуално това би могло да се промени.
we had to make sure that we had taken every precaution
Ние трябва да сме сигурни и да вземем предохранителни мерки,
to provide for the safety and the survivability of America's leadership.
да направим така, че да осигурим безопасност на лидерите на Съединените щати.
69, we said we stopped investigating UFOs.
През 1967 те престанаха да разследват НЛО.
Over the course of years up to the present,
За
we
известно
continued
време,
investigating UFOs.
за известно време никой не е разследвал НЛО.
There were various programs by different names.
Всъщност разследвали са ги, но те са били под различни имена. Но вече, не вече като Сина книга.
We were very rapidly, very quietly trying to get as much information we could from military people, not civilians.
You mean right now?
Huh?
You mean now or?
All the way through. We did not want information from John Q. Public on the street. They couldn't tell us anything. Our military, they were professional observers.
Ние продължаваме да събираме информация, разбира се от хора, които са видяли от улицата нещо, но най-вече от хора, на които можем да разчитаме за показанията им, като солидни хора.
We knew there was a technology involved, and what we wanted to do, even to this day, is very quietly, very quickly, very rapidly acquire that technology, develop that technology, and absorb it into our technology to where it becomes part of our technology.
И за това, всъщност това е част от мерките, които са взели ЦРУ, да създадат, да имитират копия, да имитират технологии като тези на НЛО, които посещават Земята.
That's where we stand today.
И това, което правим днес.
There are many people who believe
Има много хора, които вярват,
that the truth is about to come out very soon.
че това разкритие ще се случи много скоро.
With me, I'm not going to hold my breath, but I do know this. At some point in the future, there's going to be the event that occurs where they're not going to be able to keep it quiet.
Аз не мога да кажа точно кога това ще се случи, това разкритие, но мога да ви кажа, че не е далече времето, когато това ще стане.
And before that happens, it behoove the powers that be to tell the people that we're not alone in the universe. We have visitors coming here.
И тогава ще кажат, нали, че ние не сме сами във Вселената и че те ни посещават.
To do anything otherwise, we face the real possibility, once the truth does come in, that there could be possible panic among some people.
Възможно е това да предизвика определена паника сред хората.
You and I can say, oh no, we wouldn't be afraid, but you and I, we
Ти и
know.
аз може би ще кажем, не се страхуваме от това.
But the vast numbers of people
Но доста от хората,
that do not know
те не разбират за какво става въпрос.
everything they believed in,
Всичко, в което те са вярвали,
their life paradigms,
цялата тази стара парадигма от вярвания,
their perception of reality,
тяхното разбиране за света, за реалността,
in the twinkling of an eye, all changes.
просто с скоростта с едно намигване всичко ще се промени.
The day that UFO reality is made known.
И този ден ще бъде, когато всички ще разберат реалността на НЛО.
Now, do you have any questions?
Сега ти имаш ли въпроси? Той ме пита. There's watchers from Bulgaria and also from England. Old friend Robert. He say hello Stony, hello Ivan, and two other guys watching right now. Peter Simeonov, he's from Spain, and Veselin Buyanov, he's from Bulgaria, they're watching. Clifford Stone пита дали някой от вас има въпроси, на които той евентуално би могъл да отговори в момента. I said if you have questions you can ask right now. And they're thinking. So what's new in the area about for the UFO community? What is the news?
Well, right now, you know, they're
Какво е новото, което може да се каже за НЛО обществото сега?
right now, a lot of people is hoping
Сега много хора се
that
надяват,
more information is going to come out on
че много информация ще се появи.
how do you say that? ATAP, AATIP, which stands for
От агенцията за
Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
много информация ще се появи относно новите технологии за космически изследвания.
And people are going to have to forgive me because I've been doing a lot of work. The last 72 hours I've only had about maybe 10 hours of sleep. But you know what I've been doing and you know what I've been working
Той
on.
каза, че през последните 72 часа той е свършил страшно много работа с документация и така нататък. И той е спал едва 10 часа и моля да го извините, ако изглежда изморен.
And I still have a whole lot more work to do.
И аз имам още много работа да върша.
And I'm trying to get it out there to where it can be shared with as many people as
Опитвам
possible.
се да
as quickly as
споделя
possible.
колкото е възможно повече документи с хората по света.
I'll be posting some stuff on my Facebook.
Винаги слагам неща на моята страница на Facebook.
Be watching it closely because I have a sneaky suspicion
Можете
that a couple of the
да
documents
проверявате често.
may be pulled from the Facebook.
Можете да ползвате всичката информация, която слагам на Facebook. And also I'm going to say that somebody tried to clone your profile, right?
Oh yes, but people are saying, oh no, that's a hoax, that's a hoax. Well, first of all,
Той каза,
let me
че
explain what's happened.
ако евентуално видите, всъщност едва ли ще можете да различите някакъв клониран негов профил, но твърде възможно е неговия профил да бъде клониран скоро.
The hoax that they're talking about, that's one thing. The reality is tied to a person trying to clone my Facebook, my profile, is something I believe to be different. Since I've been talking about, we almost had disclosure in the 52, 53 time frame, there's been a major effort to tell me to shut up about it, and I'm not going to do that.
Много хора искат, ме заплашват и ми казват да замълча. И правят различни опити, нали, понякога да оказват влияние върху моя Фейсбук.
When I was on Jimmy Church's show, Fade to Black. There was somebody that came to my door, and while we
По
were
време, когато той е бил в радиопредаване на живо, някой е дошъл до вратата му на къщата му.
Jimmy even said he could hear what was going on.
И е имало тропотение по вратата и този водещия на радиопредаването казал, и аз чувам, че някой хлопа по вратата ти.
And here again the man went ahead at the front telling me
И човека, който беше отвън, ми каза през вратата,
shut up and change the subject matter, not to be talking about that.
или променете темата на разговора в това предаване.
Then when we went to a break, I went
Тогава имахме малка почивка,
to see if I could find anything taking place. I opened the back door.
за да проверя около къщата ми дали някой си още е там.
My dog alerted that someone was out there, but I wouldn't let him go out.
Кучето ми лаеше, сякаш някой беше там.
But there was a man out there, and I could see a silhouette.
Но определено там имаше човек, защото аз видях силуета му.
I know he thought I couldn't see him because he thought he was in the dark.
Той вероятно си мислеше, че аз нямаше да го видя, защото той беше на тъмно.
Behind my house there's a vacant field, then another street, and there's a street light there.
От моя офис, от другия прозорец, аз мога да наблюдавам и от другата част на улицата.
And that street light was lighting up his silhouette
И
really good.
светлината от уличното осветление всъщност очертаваше неговия силует.
Then
Well,
the next morning,
на следващата сутрин
I got up, I looked.
събудих, гледах наоколо,
I had to go upstairs. When I got upstairs,
чих се на втория етаж.
the door that was always kept locked
Вратата, която
upstairs
обикновено винаги беше заключена,
was standing wide open.
беше напълно отворена.
In short, somebody had entered my house.
И вероятно някой е бил там, в тази стая.
To the best of my knowledge, nothing was stolen. It was
Това,
like just giving me a
мисля, че нищо не е
message.
откраднато, но това сигурно е било само едно послание.
Then the other thing that happened
Другото, което се случи,
was somebody broke into my bank account
някой се опита да се опита да има достъп до моята банкова сметка
and changed my password.
и е сменил паролата ми.
Nothing was taken out of my account
Нищо
or
не е
nothing like
взето.
that. Once I found it happen, I
И
went
когато
ahead,
разбрах, че се е случило,
I changed my password again,
промених паролата си отново,
reported it to the bank,
докладвах на банката.
and they went ahead. I guess the best thing is they did, said, well, if it happens again, report it. Well,
Ако се случи отново, обади се.
I'm going to become a member of LifeLock, period. I'm not going to take that chance no more. But here again, I think all that was subtle messages being sent to me showing what could happen to me if I don't start playing ball with them when they're telling me to play ball with them.
Но заключението, до което стигаме, е, че са ми изпратили прекалено много съобщения да престана да говоря.
And, the whole situation is that I have a serious interest and drive in getting to the truth and getting that information out there to all peoples.
Аз съм много близко до много важни документи и аз искам да разкрия всичко това на хората по света.
Ultimately, in the end, the reality of UFOs and that we are not alone in the universe is going to have
Ние не сме сами в Вселената.
is going to have an impact on every living person here on this planet.
И всяко едно същество от тази планета ще го разбере.
And what we need to do is
Това,
work
което трябва да направим е
to get the honest truth out there, honest answers,
честно да разкрием истината,
so we will be prepared
така че сме готови всички.
when, that open contact
За
ultimately
отворен
happens.
контакт, което
It's
ще се случи.
not a question,
Това не
will it happen,
това
if it
не е въпрос,
happens.
който можем да се дадем и ще се
It's
случи или няма да
going
се
to
случи.
happen.
Това ще се случи.
No. Once again, any questions?
I don't know, maybe there's a questions, but I don't see anything because I see just you and a few guys who is watching. But anyway, If some questions show up, I'll get that questions and I mail it to you by your email. So, and then we'll see how we can, or maybe you can post these answers to the Facebook back to them. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Clifford Stone, for your time, and you're a super kind person, and we're very happy to have you in UFO Disclosure Bulgaria and to be friends for now and forever.
Well, as I go through life, I have people that may hate me, dislike me.
Има хора, когато излъчвам на живо, които ме харесват, които ме мразят.
But within my heart and my mind, I have no enemies.
Но в моето сърце и в моя ум аз нямам врагове.
Every person out there,
всеки човек, който ме гледа или слуша,
animals,
или някакви животни,
every living thing on this planet,
живо творение на тази планета,
is important to me.
Е важно за мен.
And the most important thing
най-важното е,
to me,
най-важното за мен е,
is that I don't become a master, and I'm not a master.
Аз не съм учител и няма да бъда учител.
But I want to be a servant to humanity.
Но аз обичам да бъда служител на човечеството.
And with that being said, there aren't any borders.
И това означава, че няма никакви граници.
And should anyone ever be in Roswell, New Mexico,
и няма значение дали вие ще бъдете в Розуел в Ню Мексико,
and wish to come and divulge in the documentation and stuff I have, I will be more than glad to share that with them, as you already know. And my door is never closed to no one.
Ако случайно имате път към Розуел, Ню Мексико, моята врата е винаги отворена за вас и аз съм готов да споделя всичко, което имам.
So with that being said, I guess I can say, have a good day, good evening, good
Мога да ви
morning,
пожелая хубава вечер или хубав ден,
wherever you are in this
където и
world,
да сте на тази планета,
and God bless.
и Бог да ви благослови.